Okay, so this week we are going to be talking about willpower and motivation. So the first topic we have to discuss is willpower. How does willpower work? Well, very important for you to know that willpower is a limited resource, and therefore we cannot rely on willpower. I'm going to say this over and over again. Any diet plan that tells you, oh, just suck it up, you just have to be stronger, you just have to eat more and, eat less and move more. Some tell you to eat more. But the basic premise is that all you need is willpower. Well, if you don't have a lot of willpower, then that's a problem. So it's important that you know, I think it's important for everybody to know about how the brain works, and that willpower is formed in the prefrontal cortex of our brain, which, as I've talked about before, we call this the higher brain. This is where discipline resides, or willpower. This is where you set goals, you plan things, you desire to reach your weight, your dream weight. All of this is really a lot of these thoughts and this energy is coming from the prefrontal cortex. However, for willpower to be available to you, your prefrontal cortex needs to be in tip-top shape. And I don't mean just, yeah, you have a healthy brain. I mean, day to day, your prefrontal cortex function, as you get more fatigued, it goes down. So your willpower resources are easily compromised. Fatigue, stress, overwhelm, confusion, emotions, stress, anything of fear, anything like that is going to inhibit your prefrontal cortex and therefore will inhibit your willpower. We are designed this way. We can't think of it as a bad thing, but we have to be aware that this is how we are designed. And there is a reason for it. There are multiple reasons for it that make sense, especially when you live out in the plains and you live in a cave. But in our modern day, it's sometimes this can be a real issue for us. But the important thing for you to remember is that when you're tired and you've been working all day and you get home and you are now charged with making dinner and having self-control, well, you're asking a lot of yourself in that situation. And once you know that, you can see that it's not your fault, right? It takes the pressure off. And it's important for you to understand that habits easily overpower willpower when your prefrontal cortex is compromised, right? So when you're tired or stressed or whatever, your willpower is low, that's when your habits kicked in. And this is awesome. As I say, you're only as good as your training. You're only as good as your habits. If you have good habits, this is good. But if you have bad habits, this is bad. So, let's say you're tired and you come home, but you have the good habit of munching on carrots and you have the good habit of having food in the house. Therefore, you can allow your habits to kick in. It doesn't matter if you have willpower at this point. But if you have bad habits and they're very powerful, well, willpower is not going to save you, most likely, unless you're sufficiently motivated, which we'll talk about in a little bit in another video. But just for you to understand right now, willpower it comes from your prefrontal cortex, which is easily compromised by stress and fatigue and overwhelm and fear and all of those things, emotions. And if you have good habits in place, that can come and take over for you. Where your willpower is low, okay, fine, I have some good habits and I'm just going to do it on autopilot. And this is why habits are so important and why we want to change them. But while you're changing them, go easy on yourself. It's not your fault. I love this stuff. I think it's so important to know this. It really I think it makes everyone feel better. However, you also want to learn how to master willpower, and we will talk about that in another video.